Hi, hello everyone, my name is Pankaj Dubey, and in this video we are going to discuss some of the mostly asked interview questions in Protractor. So before we move on, I want my viewers to have a basic understanding of how Protractor works and what it's all about. So just in case if you do not know that what is Protractor and how it works, I will request you guys to go and watch my previously posted playlist on Protractor tutorial. There you will gain the basic understanding of how it works and how to write the scripts and how to create the frameworks. And once you are ready with that, this video is surely going to help you to crack the interview. So let's move on. The very first question that interviewer will ask you is, what is Protractor? So Protractor is an end-to-end test framework for AngularJS and AngularJS applications. So when Selenium is already a very powerful tool in market to automate any web application, what is the point of Protractor? What is the point of introducing Protractor in the test automation segment? So when the market took a shift towards web development, earlier they were using, the developers were using ASP and JSP, which were very common and powerful frameworks to develop web applications. Later, a JavaScript framework eventually came into the market with more powerful features in it. So developers and full stack developers adopted this to develop the web applications, and there AngularJS became very common choice. So any web application which is built using AngularJS can be automated with Protractor. Although Protractor is not just to automate the AngularJS applications, it can also be used to automate any non-AngularJS applications as well. Protractor has all the features of Selenium, as it is built on top of Selenium WebDriver. So it is a wrapper which is built on top of Selenium WebDriver with many extended features like synchronization handling and advanced element locators. Now these 2 points are very important, as these 2 points are the core that differentiates Protractor with Selenium. So we'll talk about synchronization handling and advanced element locators in my coming further slides. Now the question is, what is AngularJS? So AngularJS is a JavaScript-based open source front-end web application framework to make SPA web applications. It is developed and maintained by Google. It lets you use HTML as your template language and lets you extend HTML's syntax to express your application's component clear and compact. So AngularJS and React.js is very common and popular choice of developing SPA web applications. Now the question is that what is SPA? So SPA stands for single page application. SPA is a web application where the page is loaded only once throughout the session, and only the additional web components will get loaded or updated into the web page. So single page applications are very fast. It gives you a desktop application experience when you start using the SPA. So to develop the SPA web applications, AngularJS is a very common and popular tool. So now question is that why to choose Protractor over Selenium? When we already have a very powerful web automation framework like Selenium, then what is the point of choosing Protractor? So let's differentiate it. So Selenium is best fit for traditional web applications automation. Selenium is not capable of synchronization handling. It can only be handled with lots of weight. So what happens when you click on any button, or if you trigger any request on the SPA web application, in background it will send a certain request to the web server and will receive the response. It will process it and update the web page. So this thing cannot be handled by default in the Selenium. So in Selenium, how you can handle it? You will have to use multiple weights to handle all such events. But in Protractor, it is automatically handled. Selenium does not support the advanced element locator strategies of AngularJS web applications. So AngularJS web applications modifies the attributes of HTML, and it will allow you to write certain additional elements that will help you to find any web element on the page. So Protractor, when you will Protractor, you will find that it will automatically handle the synchronization of the web page, and it will also give you the additional element locator strategies to find the web element. So this is the very niche difference between Selenium and Protractor. Protractor is best fit for AngularJS web applications. Protractor supports Angular specific locator strategies, which allows you to test Angular specific elements easily. You no longer need to add waits and sleeps to your test. It automatically synchronizes with event calls or background request processing. So all the points are self-explanatory here. So this is the common and main framework between the Selenium and Protractor. Now the next question is, what is ngWebDriver? ngWebDriver is a WebDriver library that enables Selenium to find element locators for AngularJS web applications. So in my previous slide, we talked about that what is the difference between Selenium and Protractor. So I said that Protractor has certain element strategies implemented in it to find the advanced elements in the web page. So ngWebDriver, if you use the ngWebDriver library with Selenium, it will again give you the same flexibility of finding those element locator strategies in the Selenium. The web app built using AngularJS has complex DOM structure, so many times creating XPath or CSS selector is a tough task, and a person has to use new locators like model or binding. So model and binding, these are very common element locator strategy in Protractor. ngWebDriver library gives you the ability to use new locators while working with Selenium WebDriver. So just in case if you do not want to move, if you do not want to shift from Selenium to Protractor, you can already use Selenium, and then there is a third-party library called ngWebDriver that you can add into your project, and then it will give you many flexibility to test the AngularJS web applications. Now what is conf.js and spec.js? So conf.js has test configuration related setup, like which browser to use, how to set proxy, and what is the base URL kind of details, how to prepare reports, what are the code that you have to write in onPrepare, like if you have to maximize the window, then that code has to be written in the conf.js. So conf.js has the configuration related detail of your Protractor project. And spec.js refers to test case files. So this is test configuration file and this is your test case file. So in all the project you will have one conf.js and multiple spec.js. So in spec.js you will have to write the test cases, and in conf.js you have to write the configuration related details. So spec.js, it has test case logics in it. Protractor follows Jasmine testing framework. So everything is arranged in describe and it blocks. Each test case must be written in it block, and one described body may have multiple it blocks. So here you can see there is two snippet of, one is for conf.js and one is for spec.js. So in conf.js it is written exports.config. You are mentioning the capabilities like the browser name, framework that you have to use, and the reference of this spec.js that you have to execute. So when you have to execute this whole project, you have to say protractor space conf.js. So that protractor space conf.js will trigger this file, and in this file you have given the reference of your test case file, which is the spec.js. So in spec.js everything has to be written in describe and it. So describe is a suit and it block denotes a test case. So one described block can have multiple it blocks, and one it block will refer to one test case. So this is what is the difference between conf.js and spec.js. Now what is direct connect in conf.js? Direct connect is an option in conf.js to ask Protractor to directly connect with the browser. It works for Chrome and Firefox browsers. So when you start writing conf.js, there you have to mention if you directly want to connect with your browser or not. So here there is a method to describe it, which is direct connect is equals to true. So if direct connect is equals to true, which means it will automatically connect with the browser, and you will not have to launch the Selenium server engine in order to connect with your browsers. So direct connect is an option in conf.js to ask Protractor to directly connect with the browser. It works for Chrome and Firefox browsers. For other browsers, testers will have to launch the Selenium server first, and then direct connect will be false. So just in case if you have to work with any other browser like Internet Explorer or any other browser, then you will have to first mention that direct connect is equals to false, and you have to launch the Selenium server first. Now why running a Selenium server is required? While working on Protractor, you can directly execute your script on Chrome and Firefox. Remember the direct connect method in the conf.js, that the one that we previously discussed. But to connect with any other web browser, you will require running a Selenium server explicitly. Selenium server works as a proxy between your script and the browser driver. So here is your test script, and this test script will travel to browser drivers with the help of Selenium server. So in case if your test script is written in the Protractor and the browser drivers are Chrome and Firefox, then you can directly connect your script with the Chrome and Firefox. But just in case if your drivers are like Safari or any other like Internet Explorer, then you will have to take Selenium server in between. You will have to run the Selenium server in between, and then your test case will travel through Selenium server to web browsers. Now starting the server from a test script, you can also start your Selenium server with the test script, and you can also execute it with the command line. So to start the standalone Selenium server from within your test scripts, set these options in your config file: Selenium server jar, Selenium port, and Selenium arguments. The benefit of it is Selenium server can help you to run multiple tests at the same time on different browsers. Now question is, what is onPrepare method in conf.js? So when you start writing configuration file of your Protractor script, you have an option to write the onPrepare function. You can, there is a snippet, and in this here you can see the code for onPrepare function. So in this onPrepare function, I have said that browser.drivermanage.window.maximize to maximize the window when the script starting to execute. And you can also mention here multiple other details, like if you want to declare any global variable that you want to use throughout the specification file in your test cases or in your specification file, you can mention it here, and you can use it anywhere in your project. So it will give you to write any setup related code in the onPrepare, which will get executed before starting your execution. Now element locators in Protractor. So as I said earlier that there are different element locators added in the Protractor. So what are those element locators? Those are model, repeater, button text, CSS containing text, options, binding, and also you can create your custom locators. And apart from these locators, there are other element locators which were there in the Selenium. So you have all the locators which were there in the Selenium plus these element locators that you can use to write your XPath or to find your web elements on the page. What is default JS framework in Protractor? So Jasmine is the default framework in the Protractor. The other supported frameworks are Mocha and TypeScript. Now what is Jasmine framework? So Jasmine is a behavior-driven development and testing framework for JavaScript. The latest Jasmine framework is 3.x as of May 19. It has no external dependencies. It is the default framework for writing Protractor test scripts, and Jasmine is open source. List out the Jasmine methods. So as we were using testng in Selenium, we have describe, it, before all, after all, before each, after each, expect and fail methods in Jasmine that we can use to design our framework of automation. Now explain describe and it blocks. So describe block creates a group of specifications often called a suite. Calls to describe can be nested within other describe to compose your suite as a tree. So one describe block can have another describe block. So this is how you can implement the nesting of describe blocks. So one suite will contain another suite that you can execute. And it block defines a single specification. A spec should contain one or more expectations that test the state of the code. So each it block must have one assertion to validate that whether the result of the performed functions are as expected or not, and based on that your test case will be passed or failed. A spec whose expectations all succeeded will be passing, and spec will any failure will fail. You can also specify a timeout period in a it block. So once you write the it block, you can mention your description, write your function and the timeout. So here is one snippet of the spec file that you can see. So it starts with the describe, and in described I have mentioned the simple description in 2 words. So that described has function. This function has again before each and multiple it blocks. So one it block will denote one test case. So before each method will get executed before starting any test case in this described block. Now what is fit and zit? So as we said that one described block can have multiple it blocks, and each it block defines a test case. So if you label one test case with fit, then if this describe block has multiple it, then only the fit will get executed and rest will not be executed. And similarly, if you have to disallow one it block to not to execute, then you have to, instead of writing it, you will have to mention z. So if you label this case with z, then this case will not get executed and all other it blocks will get executed. So this is the primary difference between fit and z. Explain assertions in Protractor. Expect statement creates an expectation in your test. This expect condition has to be satisfied to pass your test case. Fail statement will explicitly mark a spec file. Expect statements are usually closed with to be condition and not to be condition. So here you can see that there is one expect statement, and what is it is trying to expect is that to-do list.count should be equal to 3. So this is your assertion in your Protractor. This is how you will be writing the assertions in your test cases. Can we test non-angular web applications in Protractor? So yes, you can test any web application which is either angular or non-angular. Both types of applications can be tested in Protractor. So if you're going to use Protractor to automate any non-angular web application, then you have to mention browser.wait for angular enabled to be false. So if you write this code in front of the in start of the spec file, then that spec or that test case will be considered to be executed without waiting for any angular variable on the web page. Next question is, which is very important, what is synchronization in Protractor? So once an event is fired on the AngularJS page, it triggers a background processing to or from the server. It usually be a request response chain. It is called an asynchronous operation until this job is not finished. Next statement in this script will not get executed. So what happens once you trigger any event on the web page, and if the web page sent a request and wait for the response from the server, till that time your statement or the next code will not get executed, and it will keep waiting. And if the synchronizations continue in infinite time or in infinite loop, then your script will get hold there and it will get timed out after the certain timeout period. So this has to be handled in the Protractor. So just in case if your web page is waiting for synchronization and that synchronization is going in an infinite loop, then you have to specifically ask your script to not to wait for synchronization. So this is how you will be implementing it. So what code you have to write? You have to say browser.ignore synchronization is equals to true. If you write this code and synchronization is in process on your web page, then to your web application and the web script, the code of your automation will get executed. How can we use WebDriver commands in Protractor? So Selenium command can also get executed in Protractor. So what you have to do is you just have to mention browser dot before writing your WebDriver command. So you can say browser.driver.manage.window.maximize, and this is a WebDriver command, and this will get executed if you prefix this statement with browser dot. getText method in Protractor. So when we were working on Selenium, so to retrieve the text of any web element, we were using a method called getText. Same is used here in the Protractor. So while working with Protractor, we have to be little cautious about what a method returns, as it behaves slightly differently than it does in Selenium WebDriver. In Selenium WebDriver, getText returns a value. Remember, in Selenium WebDriver, getText method returns a value, but it returns a JavaScript promise in Protractor. So if you say console.log, and if you say, let's take this example. So there is one variable in which I am assigning a text of one element, and if I try to console.log, if I try to print this a, it will not print the text of this element. Instead, it will print some promise. It will be certain a different type of code which will be printed in your console. So you will not get your text on the console. So how it has to be handled? You have to first resolve the promise. So how can you resolve the promise? So you have to say element.getText, and after that you have to put a dot, and then you have to use this keyword then. Inside the parenthesis of then, you have to write a function. In the parenthesis of function, you have to declare a variable. So the text which will be returned by this method will get stored in this return text after the promise resolution. So if promise is resolved here, and the value of the getText is stored in the returned text variable. And now in the body of this function you can try to console.log, and now you can be able to view the exact text which is returned by the element of this web element. Now the question is that what is JavaScript promise in Protractor? A promise is a promising of a method that the return value of the method will be provided soon. It's an object and the value of it depends on the condition whether the method is resolved or rejected. So JavaScript promise is a promising of a method. So if you use a method that promises you that it will return certain element, certain value after some time, then this will be called a JavaScript promise. So it has to be handled in a different way while writing your automation script. So why promise? JS was specifically designed to render the objects on web page. So initially, if you remember, the JavaScript was specifically designed to render the object on the web page. It is the native scripting language behind any web page. It is the native scripting language behind any web page. Understand this with below a statement that will get executed and return a web page. So let's say that you are trying to get a web page and there are 4 lines of codes that has to be executed in order to generate a web page. In the synchronous order of code execution, if one line of the code is not resolved, then the next line of the code will also get stuck. So if you imagine that this has to be executed in a sequential manner in order to produce the web page. So if just in case if this line 3 of code is not executed, then also line 4 will not get executed. In that case, you will get a bad user experience on your web page. So just to avoid it, it says that line 3 will return you it promises you to return a value, but meanwhile you carry on with the other line of codes so that the end user can get a good user experience on the web page. Later it may give you the value or may not give you the value, but it promises you that if it is resolved, then it will give you a value. So this is why it doesn't execute in a sequential manner, it executes in the asynchronous manner. What is waits in Protractor? So wait statement schedules a command to wait for a condition to hold or promise to be resolved. So how to implement the wait in Protractor? If the interviewer will ask you this question, then you have to say that wait statement schedules a command to wait for a condition to hold or promise to be resolved. This function returns a promise which can be used if you need to block JavaScript execution and not just the control flow. You can use wait with expected conditions, which will hold the script execution till a condition is not satisfied. So let's say that if you have to wait for certain element to return any value, or if you have to wait because of any reason, then how you can use it? So you have to say, let's say where started is equals to start test server. And till the server is not started, you cannot execute the next line of code. So what you have to say, you have to use the browser.wait. So browser.wait, and here you have to mention the condition. So until this server is not started, it will hold the script execution. So this statement will not get executed. So this is how you have to use the waits. The other example is that you can also use the expected conditions of Protractor. So declare a variable, let's say EC is equals to Protractor.expectedConditions, and now say that browser.wait EC.visibility of an element for 5000 milliseconds. So this is how you can again use the wait statement in your script to wait for the visibility of one element, and till that element is not visible, your script will not get executed further. There are multiple conditions for expected conditions in Protractor. So you can wait for title contains, you can wait for URL contains, you can wait for the presence of an element, you can wait for stillness of a web element, you can wait for visibility of a web element. There are multiple expected conditions that you can use. Now question is, what is timeout in Protractor? So because WebDriver tests are asynchronous and involve many components, there are several reasons why a timeout could occur in a Protractor test. So if you execute your script and if you find that there is any timeout error, so there are multiple options that can occur to throw that timeout. So how you will investigate? You can read these slides, you can go through these slides to understand the causes of throwing a timeout error by the Protractor script. So one timeout is thrown by the Protractor, another is thrown by the WebDriver, and another is thrown by the Jasmine framework. So if waiting for page to load, this timeout occurs, then you have to understand that this is caused by the Protractor and not by the WebDriver or Jasmine. I will explain all this in my coming slides. So Protractor causes wait for page to load timeout, waiting for Angular timeout, waiting for Angular on page load timeout. WebDriver causes asynchronous script timeout, and Jasmine causes specs timeout. Now timeouts about Protractor. So first one was waiting for page to load. When navigating to a new page using browser.get, Protractor waits for the page to be loaded and the new URL to appear before continuing. Error type looks like an error in your test results. Error timeout waiting for page to load after 1 or 10,000 milliseconds. So this is how it looks like. If you analyze your screen, then you will find that if the error types are like an error in your test result, error timeout on waiting for page to load after 10,000 milliseconds. Default timeout for this is 10 seconds. So this is why it shows you 10,000 milliseconds. How to change? To change globally, add get page timeout timeout in milliseconds in your Protractor configuration file. Waiting for Angular. Before performing any action, Protractor waits until there are no pending asynchronous tasks in your Angular application. This means that all timeouts and HTTP requests are finished. Waiting for Angular on web page or page load. Protractor waits for the Angular variable to be present when loading a new page. Looks like error in your test result. Angular could not be found on the web page. Root tries looking for Angular executed. So these are all errors caused by Protractor. Asynchronous script timeout looks like this. This is how the error will look like, where it will mention script timeout error, asynchronous script timeout. Result was not received in 11 seconds. Default timeout period is 11 seconds. How you can change it? You can go to your conf.js and mention all script timeouts as timeouts in milliseconds. Now specification timeout. If a spec or an it block takes longer than the Jasmine timeout for any reason, it will fail and it will throw you an error which will look like this. So you can again go in your conf.js and you can change the default timeout period for the spec execution. Now question is how you can handle pop-up and alerts. So there are a method called switch to method which is used to move on to alerts or pop-ups. You can use sub methods of switch to like accept and reject to accept or reject the alerts. You can also hold the script execution till alerts are not handled by using expected condition with wait. So this is how you can, this is the code snippet that you can use to wait until the alert is not present. How you can handle iframe? Again, you can use the same method, switch to move on to the frame. You can mention the frame ID or the frame name to move on to the frame. Handling multiple windows in Protractor, again you have to use the switch to method and then you can pass on the handle array list which has all the handle information. So if you mention the index, then again it will jump on the handle, another handle. How to check if an element is selected? There are many scenarios where we need to check that if an element is selected. So example is consider a radio button or checkbox where you need to validate that if that element is selected or not. So you can use this method is selected. You have to create a element, web element, and then you have to use is selected method in order to get a boolean value that whether this box or this component is selected or not. Handling dropdown. So this is the example of code of dropdown. So you can say element.all by tag name option. So it will get all the web element which has option tag, and then you can say dot get 2. So 2 is the index. So the second one will get selected in the dropdown. Actions in Protractor. So action class creates a sequence of user actions like keyboard, event, and many other. Example that you have to type a keyboard. So you can use browser.actions .send keys, and now you have to use the Protractor key. So Protractor.key enter .perform. So it will press the enter key. Again, if you have to use any other key, then you have to mention key dot that key name. Drag and drop. in Protractor. So how you can perform the drag and drop in Protractor? This is very common question that many interviewer asks. So you have to be full prepared for this. So there are 3 options that you can answer, that how to perform drag and drop. So browser.actions, mouse down element 1, mouse move element 2, mouse up, and perform. This is one option. Another one is browser.actions, drag and drop, and give the first element and the second container element where you have to move element 1, and dot perform. So these are the 3 options that you can use to answer about a drag and drop question. How you can upload a file in Protractor? So you have to create a it's just that whatever file that you have to upload, you have to get the path of that file, and you have to say send keys into the file uploader component, and it will automatically add your file into the list. And if you click the submit button, the form.submit button, it will upload your file. So for a form example, like if there is a form where you can select the file and you have to upload it, so in selecting the file place, you can directly send your path, file path, and then you have to click the form.submit. It will automatically upload your file. In case if you do not have any submit or upload button, you just have to use that element where the file has to be uploaded and directly say send keys, and it will by default automatically upload your file into the web server. How to capture screenshots in Protractor? So option 1 is inbuilt feature of Protractor, browser.take screenshot method, and then you have to use then to resolve this promise and say if you have to save this in PNG format with right screenshot and then the path of the file and the format of the file. So you can use the inbuilt feature of Protractor to capture a screenshot. How to handle dependencies in Protractor? So like when we were working with Selenium, there were option of creating a Maven project, and you have to mention all the dependencies in the Maven project. So similarly, if you have to mention, if you have to maintain all the dependencies, then how you will maintain it in Protractor? So you have to create a package.json file in your project root folder, put all the dependencies required for the project, and run command npm install to install the dependencies. Below is an example. So in this example, you can see that package.json has JSON structure. Here it is name, version, description, and author, and then the dependencies. In dependencies, I have mentioned some of the npm modules that I have to add in my project. So this will get added when you run the command npm install. What is npm module in Protractor? So npm is a package manager for the Node programs. npm program is automatically installed with Node installation. npm modules are JavaScript libraries. npm.js, this line is not correct. npm modules are similar to JavaScript libraries. So it is very similar to jar files that you get to use in Java project. So it is a JavaScript library for Java project. npm.js.com hosts all the modules. To install an npm module, go to your project location through terminal or command line and run npm install and then the node module name or the npm module name. In Protractor, each downloaded npm modules are downloaded and saved under node modules folder. Now question is, what is Protractor control flow? So WebDriver.js or Protractor API are entirely asynchronous. All functions return promises. The WebDriver.js library uses a promise manager to ease the pain of working with the purely asynchronous API. WebDriver.js maintains a queue of pending promises called the control flow to keep execution organized. For example, consider this test. So this test has to be executed in a sequential manner in order to produce the result. So everything will get executed in a sequential manner. But if in case there is one element which there is one method used which is a promise, then it will automatically go into the control flow. Everything will go into the control flow and will executed in the sequential manner. What is async and await in Protractor? So instead of control flow, you can synchronize your commands with promise chaining or upcoming ES7 feature async await. So this is not anymore upcoming, it has already come into the market. The latest node just provides native async await, which means we can get stable E2E test without using control flow in JavaScript test. To write and run native async await test, the node.js version should be greater than or equal to 8.0 and Jasmine version should be greater than or equal to 2.7. If we use async await to write test, we can get a better debugging experience. So how you can create a suite in conf.js. So this is the example that how you can organize everything is in. So if you have to create smoke suite, you have to mention inside suites, you have to mention smoke or the name that you want to give it, and then in in square bracket you have to mention all the spec files. Similarly, there is a regression suite that you want to create. So again, in regression you have to use square bracket and mention the spec files that you have to use. And to run it, you have to say protractor space conf.js and -- your suite name. What is page object model? The page object model, or POM. The idea is to create two classes for one page. One will be your page class, where you will store your common methods, where you will store your web elements, and in the spec class you have to write the logic which is relevant to test case. Okay, so let's go on the point. The idea is to create two classes for one page class or the page object class. One class will represent the page object class. It will contain the element repository like element, xpath or id, and common methods which is needed to test the page. The other page will be spec class. The other one will represent the test case file for that page. When the page web element and common functionality will be excluded from this file, you will focus on calling the methods from page object classes and put the assertions here. So this file will only contain the test case related logic, and rest is placed in the page object file. It will make your spec or test file much cleaner and manageable. So let's say there is a web page. So you have to use page class or the page object class. Okay, and then for whole automation whole project, you will have to write the configuration class or the base class, and then the other utilities, like if you have to read from Excel, if you have to generate the report, then this will be placed in the another file. And then you will have to write the test class file, and this class file will extend the features of your page object. It will use the web element from this page class. It will use the common methods from this page class. It will also use the method which is there in the utility or the helper class, like reading from the Excel or preparing a report or any such thing that has to do with your utility of the project. It will read that file from here, and also the global configuration will get loaded from the base class. So using all those things, you will write your test case in the test class. So this class will extend all the features of your page object. It will extend the features of your base class. It will get the functions from utility, and then the spec will be written here, which will be more cleaner and manageable. Now, what is the benefit of page object model? So page object model is a framework designing pattern where you arrange your classes in such a way that your methods and object repositories are reusable. It enhances the project maintainability and readability. It reduces code duplication. And POM designing pattern can be used with any framework, whether it is behavior driven or data driven framework. So this is a sample framework that I want to show you. So there is a project Protractor, and I have written there are multiple folders like helper, node modules, pages, resources, and specs. So in resources, there is the Excel sheet or any other resource. In spec, it contains the test case file. In pages, it contains the page object file, and in helper, it again uses the utility classes. So this spec will get extended by these all files will get extended by the spec file, and all the methods in this page object, in this resources, and this helper will get utilized here to frame a test case. So this is how the pattern can be designed. Now, what is BDD or behavior driven testing? It is hard for non-technical people like business analysts, management people to read and understand the test cases or the test script that you write in your automation framework. So to ease the technical understanding, a feature file is written in the plain English language. It follows Garrigan's syntactical structure where given, when, then is used. This plain language is mapped against a method that actually performs the technical work. So let's say there is this feature file where there is a scenario, protractor, and cucumber test. So you have to write everything in the form of given, when, and then. So given is web URL. When you add hello test in the task fill and you perform certain other action, then you have to validate this certain point. So this is how you have to write your BDD feature file, and then each line of code like given has to be mapped with one method, when has to be mapped with the other method, and when you will execute, all those methods will execute in this manner and will produce the result. So to set up the cucumber in your conf.js, you have to put these specifications or these configuration in your conf.js. Now what is data-driven framework? So data-driven framework is required when testers has to execute the same test against multiple set of test data. So if you have to execute the same case against multiple set of test data, then you have to use the data-driven framework. So let's say there is one test automation for login, and if you have to perform the login test if you have to execute that login test with multiple set of data, then you have to read the data from any JSON file or Excel file, and you have to produce the results for all those data sets. So for that, what you will have to do, you will have to read the data from an Excel file, and then you have to use the Jasmine data provider, or you can also use the for each method to run your same test case for different data sets that you have placed in the Excel file. So for this thing, you will have to watch my another video which is there in the playlist, and then you will understand that how to perform the data-driven testing in Protractor. And just to answer the questions like how you can perform, how can you read the data from an Excel sheet, you can say that I will use npm library called xlsx or exceljs to read the data from an Excel sheet. So let's say if you use the xlsx, what happens, you can read the data and then you can convert that data into the JSON format. So once you convert that JSON format, you can use the you can save that into a variable and say that for each value in that variable you have to execute the case multiple times. This is how you will be supplying those data. So let's say login data has all the Excel data saved in it with the previous method. So this method will read the data and it will save the data into the login data. So for login data, you have to use for each, and here there is a function, and inside this I have mentioned a variable name called data. So you have to use the, get the data with this data dot method. So inside curly braces I have written my it block, and to extract the data I am saying data and dot username. So username is the header in the Excel sheet or the key in the JSON format file. So that data will get passed here. So element by dot model, this is the web element, and here I am sending the username by reading it from the Excel sheet, and then I am sending the password by reading it from the Excel sheet, and I am performing the action. So this case will get executed for all the different data sets which is there in the Excel sheet. Now interviewer can also ask you to explain a project framework that you have earlier used. So again, as we discussed in the page object model, here again I will give you a simple snippet of the simple framework. So there is Protractor project, and there are different files and folders in it. So let's start by one. So first thing is package.json. I'll go bottom to top. So first thing that I'm going to tell you is package.json. So this package.json has all the dependencies related information. Every npm module that you want to use in your spec has to be mentioned in the package.json. So package.json is used to manage project dependencies. Then comes your conf.js. So project configuration, global variables, implicit weights and driver settings has to be placed in the conf.js. Inside specs folder there is login_spec.js. So here you have to place test class file specifications with assertions. In resources there is Excel sheet to provide the test data. In pages, this is the page object which will work as a element repository or the object repository, and common functions will be stored for the login spec cases. And then the node modules. So every node module that you have mentioned in the package.json, if you run a command called npm install, everything will get downloaded and saved in the node modules. Then there is utility or helper. In utility or helper there is Excel reader and global helper. So global helpers like reading, writing external files, waiting for element methods, and in utility you can again write multiple things. And whenever you create a JavaScript project, the by default resources will get downloaded and saved in the JavaScript resources folder. Now, how you can generate the report? There are many popular NPM plugins that can be used to generate interactive reports. One of them is Jasmine Allure Reporter. The other one is Jasmine Beautiful Reporter. These are the two very commonly used reporting module in the NPM that you can use for Protractor. So you have to use this in the onPrepare method. You have to say Allure Reporter, then require Jasmine Allure Reporter, jasmine.getEnvironment add reporter. Whenever you will search for this Jasmine Allure Reporter in the npm.js package, you will get the detail that how to use that into your script. So that can be used to generate the result. So if you download the Jasmine Allure Reporter plugin from npm module and write this code in the onPrepare method, after that what you have to do is you have to run this command in order to generate the result in an HTML file. So this is how you will be able to generate your report. What is headless test execution? So what happens if you write the test automation script, then you have to execute it. So executing the same script in a non-GUI based web browsers called headless test execution. So the benefit of it will be that speed of the execution will be very fast. So headless test execution is the practice of executing the test in a non-GUI mode. The execution is faster in headless mode, although the test is executed in headless mode, but screenshots can be captured. The need of headless arises when the test execution has to be happen on a server where GUI is not configurable due to security or any other reason. The popular headless browsers are Headless, Chrome, and Phantom.js. So let's say if you have to use Headless Chrome, then this is the configuration that you have to put into your conf.js file. Now the question is, what is continuous integration testing? So the practice of testing the build for every integration is called continuous integration testing. So what happens if you write your code, automation code, and if you put it on the shared code repository like Bitbucket or GitHub, then you have to configure it with Jenkins in such a way that if there is any deployment pushed onto the development branch, then the same execution of your sanity or regression suite will also start executing. So this model will be called continuous integration testing. So the practice of testing the build for every integration is continuous integration testing. The idea is to integrate your test suite with the testing server in such a way that test automation suite is triggered for every deployment on the server. So I will summarize it and not go into much detail, otherwise you'll get confused. So if in case, you can pause and read all this content which is there which will help you. Now, what is popular JS IDE? Interviewer can also ask you that what IDE have you used and what are the other options that we can use. So the Eclipse is always a powerful IDE, whether it is for Java or JavaScript. The other popular one is MS Visual Studio Code. This is very good for writing JavaScript project, and the WebStorm, but the WebStorm is a paid project.